Fritz. Hello, dear.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Come here often.
Patriarch's just one step above an emperor, you realise?
Well, this time I've got notes, because the last time that Celia said that I should join her in saying something, she comes out with a wad of paper that you wouldn't believe. Well, some of you would, having heard her in the past. But look, let me say thanks for everybody for coming along. It's fabulous. There are people here we haven't seen for many years, old neighbours, people we met here, 1982, 62 rather, Brian?
Yeah.
1962 we met on the football pitch.
Soccer.
Football.
Yes.
Yeah. He got sent off.
Soccer. And since, of course, we've made some fabulous friends in the village here. But first of all, a couple of apologies. Ken Berry, who was the best man. Now, some of you who were at the wedding will remember Ken. He's 6'3", played in goal for Liverpool, and but sadly, Ken is down in Christchurch at the Ryman village down there, and the doctors won't let him fly. So he says, just tell us what you all say, because he loves this part of it. And I have to say, in church, if you can imagine a 6-foot-something person who was going out every week to thousands and thousands and playing the world game, sorry about that pun, and he was shaking like a leaf. And I said, I'm the one supposed to be getting married. He said, I know. Anyhow, the other one, of course, was Anne Lizelle, who was the bridesmaid. And Anne lives in France and has lived in France for quite a long time. And she enjoys sitting there in about 3 degrees at the moment, because that's how cold it is over there. And, of course, she can't come. Her husband's very ill as well. Nevertheless, they were two key members of the entourage. But let me set the scene.
Here. My brother gave us away.
He did. Well, he's here.
He wants to ask you if you want me back.
Tell him I gave you away.
Yeah, that's right. For nothing, too.
For free.
Let me set the scene for this one. The whole reason that why you people are here, and we finished up getting married, and it goes back to a place called Eastbourne, which a lot of you know. Eastbourne, around the bays from opposite Wellington, on the east side, right at the head of the harbour, almost at the top of the harbour. And it's a place we used to go for drives on Sundays, and this beautiful village, and all the little bays around it, wasn't it? But it was really expensive to live there, so that wasn't on our card. But I happened to have a business in Gracefield in those days, and I got the local paper from Eastbourne, and I flicked through it before I threw it in the bin, and it said, house for sale, deceased estate, needs some attention. And I thought, could sound possibly right, you think? Handyman's dream, all that sort of thing. So I got in the car and got hold of the land agent. And when I tell you, when a land agent turns up with their car, undoes the boot and takes out a slasher and a hammer, you realise that you may have something that you've been looking for. And anyhow, we chopped our way to the front door, literally. And the front door had a 4-inch nail in it, hence the hammer, to keep it closed. Now this was a deceased estate, obviously, from a very old man who passed away, who was very friendly with some goats and chickens, which also frequented the house with him. All the evidence was there. And we went through this place, but the main thing is, on the front door was a silver plaque, and it had the latitude of the house. And I thought, now that sounds really interesting. Anyhow, I said, we'll think about it. And I got hold of Celia and I said, you prepared for this, didn't I? And I said, look, honestly, I can really make it into something. Honestly, believe me, I can do something about this, she said. But, so we agreed on the price of $25,000. And we bought this place. Pounds? No, I'm not that old, Brian. And anyhow, we, I moved in, and I thought I'd better get the place checked out a bit. So I got the company's electrician to come and have a look. And he phoned me up and he said, "You're not sleeping here tonight, Hugh?" I said, "Why?" He said, "I've disconnected the power. It's a time bomb, the whole place." It was that type of wiring where they had battens with grooves in them.
VIR, Vulcan India rubber. VIR. Yeah.
Yeah. So he ripped all that, and I had one plug hanging down, of which I used it for the kettle, electric fry pan, a light, and something else. Can't think what. It doesn't matter. The essential things in life.
Toaster.
A toaster. That was it. That was it. Went to bed with a torch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where were you?
I was working in Auckland, dear.
You were working in Auckland. However, Eastbourne is quite a place for those who haven't been there. It's a beautiful little seaside suburb, which became quite famous in the Wahine thing, when all the lifeboats washed up there. And it was a great environment to live in. So much so, they seemed to know everything that was going on. And I was coming home from work, because I had business in Gracefield, and I thought of going to the pub for a drink, as I did occasionally, just occasionally. And the bloke behind the bar says, "Oh, I see, the Easter Bunny's coming in." I said, "What the hell is he talking about? The Easter Bunny's coming." When I get home, there's a telegram shoved underneath the door. "The Easter Bunny's arriving, flight so and so." You see, the whole village knew. Anyhow,
They all read it.
Eastbourne was a highly desirable area, without doubt. As I said, terribly expensive. But I worked on the house. Celia popped down at weekends, and commuting became almost an industry. And then we decided that we should get married. Just like that. Only took several years. And anyhow, turn the page up here, it says.
Where's the one that says breathe in,
Yeah,
breathe
that's
out?
right, yes. I've done all that, look at that. The house had this fabulous history, it did too. Why did it have the latitude on the house? Quite simple. He was the skipper, or the captain in charge of Wellington Harbour for all the ship movements during the war. And up in the roof we found boxes and boxes of all the stubs of the tickets of all the ships that had come in. It's now in the museum. So, it was an interesting place. Celia, as she says, had gone up to Carrington, which was a brand new technical institute being created in Auckland, as one of the people picked to go and open it and get it going. It's now called AUT. And yeah, I did finish the house because we set a wedding date, so I had no option but to finish the house. And I have to say, even if I got home at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I would do something. And they all called me the white ghost in the village because I had some white overalls and I was racing around and around. All they ever saw were these white overalls racing around this house, you see. But we cut the place back and got the contractors in and cleaned the place up. A friend of mine ran a big painting company, a very big one, Henderson's, a global company. And I said to him, "How do I paint a ceiling?" And I was looking at all these terrible worn ceilings. And he came out and he painted the ceiling in the bedroom in 20 minutes. He said, "That's how you do it." I said, "What?" That would have taken me half a day. I said, "What about the windows?" And he said, "Well, you paint that side with that hand and that side with that hand." And I did. And he said, "That's all you know how to do." He said, "Paint round that way." He said, "It's twice as quick." And it is. Anyhow, so much for all that.
Can I just interrupt there?
Yeah, of course. Why not? You always do.
Karen, one weekend when I was down, Karen, do you remember we took the carpet up and we did it with a spade?
Yeah.
And as we was doing this, getting rid of the carpet, all the insects were going like this. We found a dead rat when we moved in. Well, when we took possession of the house, we had found a dead rat in the hall. There was, as Hugh mentioned, the old boy had a rooster in the bathroom.
In the bathroom, yeah.
And there was a sink and a pipe and a bucket underneath the pipe. And the rooster had made a mess all over the window ledge, yes. And in the laundry, where he kept his goat, there was a rat's nest full of eggs.
which they pinched from the chickens.
And the people who inherited the house had just left it completely. There was still furniture and things in it. The fridge in the hall was just, if I say petrified, I mean petrified. It was turned to stone. We got the door off, and all the food that was in the fridge and had been there for 3.5 years had turned to stone. Just about.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyhow, but you also have to realise this little tiny street called Nayo Street. It's a tiny cul-de-sac with 10 houses in it, tree-lined both sides, and at the end of the street is the Anglican church, a little tiny wooden Anglican church, which held about 100 people. And so we said, right, we'll get married in there, which we did, of course. So come the day, Celia is now commuting back to Wellington again, and bringing all sorts of goodies. Friend Beverly, where's Beverly?
Behind the camera.
There you are. with Celia's flatmate up here in Auckland, and she had a number of jobs to do. And the main one seemed to be bringing a hat down.
Correct.
It was running a bit late, wasn't it, from the milliner or something? Something like that. And so, anyhow, come the day, and we're all at the church, 4 o'clock. That's why we're saying this at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on the 10th of December. We're all waiting, aren't we, Ed? Oh, no, you weren't there. You were waiting for her, because she was giving her away. But the thing about
the back.
the house was only 3 minutes walk to the church. It was that smaller street. So we waited, and we waited, and we waited. The vicar's prancing up and down. When the hell is she? He says, I got another gig a little bit after this, you know. And dear old Ken is sweating profusely and saying, oh God, you know, I don't think she's going to come. I don't think she's going to come. Just what you need, you know, for a best man. Anyhow, eventually the organist has now played her repertoire for weddings, you know, third time round. And the vicar sort of looked, and it had a glass front, the church does, and we're all looking down the road, you see. Eventually the vicar says, I'll go and get her. And he marches down the middle of the road, comes back 3 minutes later and says, she's on her way. Now let me say at this stage, why was she so late? Well, let me tell you. She had a hat. And she's got all this problem of putting it on. I don't have any problem to put it on. It's absolutely perfect every single time.
So hard to fashion in those days.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, I thought you. Well, that was the beginning. The wedding went off all right. We actually got married. And then we all, it was lovely because all those people who guests there lined the street, which wasn't a very long street. And we walked down the middle. And I carried, there's a picture. No, you haven't got the one, thank goodness. I'll be carrying her over the threshold.
I think it's here. It's in here.
Yes, we don't need the evidence, yes.
That's right, you've got to bang me.
But Celia, being Celia, dictated as to what happened. She had arranged the catering. And flown down from Auckland at huge expense was a certain fish pie, apparently.
No, made it on the day.
Oh, did you?
We made it the day before, that's right.
That's right. Oh, yeah. They spent a fortune on
It
it.
didn't fit in the fridge.
Oh, that's the excuse.
Yes.
They woke up in the morning after a boozy night and somebody says, oh God, the fish pie's still out. What do we do with it? And they had to toss up between killing everybody, sending us to hospital, or alternatively, burying it under the lemon tree. And I can tell you, people still enjoy excellent lemons in that place because we asked about them. Oh, wonderful lemons. But when it came to speeches, Celia said, I'm going to have a speech. You know, I know it's not traditional. I mean, of course, remember, 1978.
Six.
Sorry. No, I know how to remember the date of their wedding. She put it in the programme for the security system in the house. So every time I had to get in the house, I had to put the wedding date in.
Do you really want to share that information?
Anyhow, I said a few nice things, as you did in those days. Thanked everybody for coming, which I do here today again, and say to them, thank them for the presents, of course, all that sort of thing. And then I said, my wife would like to say a few words. Wow. Things you learn. And this is actually what she said.
What'd she say? Good.
She said, when I agreed to marry Hugh, I accepted 3 things from him: his love, his name, and his mortgage. In return, I promised him 3 things. And she would introduce me into a woman's side of the world. So she presented me with this. Which we still have. So there I am. Didn't have the hat on, but I had the apron on at this reception. This suits me. And she made 3 promises in return. 1, she would look after my comfort. She gave me a cushion, which I shoved down there on the day, I remember. The other one was to look after my health and well-being. She gave me a big jar of pills. There weren't any purple ones in it, by the way. And the third one was, she promised to warm my bed for me. Yes, that's what she gave me. So, I had a hot water bottle, which has since worn out, you know, or something. I had to borrow one for this. But, Celia, I remember that day very clearly, as you can see. Thanks for 40 fabulous years. It's been a huge amount of fun, hasn't it? Right from that day to this day. And thank you so much. I'll take the hat off.
Just leave it on if you're comfortable, Dad. Make your head warm.
Yeah, I've been around over a decade and a half and I've never seen you in the hat and it doesn't look like you want to give it up.
Excuse me, could I just sit there?
Thank you.
Okay, well,
I'm going to go sit down.
I have to have the right of reply. Will we find you a chair over here to
Yes,
side
please.
Walter?
Yeah.
As you know, some of you know, that in my retirement I'm sort of developing my poetic skills a little bit, and I thought, I have to write a poem for Hugh for this, just to commemorate our 40th anniversary. And I'd like to say, thank you all for coming today to celebrate with us. After all, a 40th wedding anniversary needs a bit of fuss. 10th December 1976 was the date when we exchanged our vows and sealed our fate. And poor old Hugh had an anxious wait. A hat malfunction made me extremely late. In Eastbourne, Wellington, I joined the Martin clan, and so our married life began. And many of you here today were there on the day, and after the ceremony you formed a pathway from the church to our newly renovated batch, where we were to celebrate the aftermatch. And over the threshold Hugh carried me. He was so much younger then, you see. Not a privilege afforded at the Hilton, I mention.
No.
Due to the wonky knees and the old age pension. The reception was a do-it-yourself affair, with the best champagne, the grandest fare. Karen didn't like the strawberries soaked in brandy, but she appreciated the champagne, and so did Andy. How old were you, 14?
14.
And then it was off to Singapore on our honeymoon to discover through our clothes confetti was strewn. Secretively, my brother had accessed our cases, sprinkling confetti in unmentionable places. After the honeymoon, we settled down to our married state in our 2-bedroomed cottage close to Cook Strait. Hugh had an engineering business in Petone then. I was teaching at the Petone Tech again. Christopher came along in 1979. His sisters, as visitors, were first in line. When Chris was 6 months old, to Auckland we relocated. A contract with Babcock's had been negotiated. And so we settled in Half Moon Bay. MD for Babcock's was Hugh's pathway. At 5, Chris had Kitchen Mountain primary admission, followed by BBI, Scouts and sailing tuition. As a family, we were having a yachting affair with Golconda, Bacano, Windchase, Perrier. So Chris was yachting from an early year, learning to swim, to row, a course to steer. To this Martin family, I have been privileged to belong. How fabulous it is that we all get along. Where's Grant?
Where's Grant?
And into this ready-made family, Chris was accepted. He's always felt loved and totally protected. To Lloyd, Grant, Andrea and Karen, I thank you sincerely for your love and support. I love you all dearly. The family and fun times have fed a relationship. They have created a bond and developed a friendship. And 40 years of marriage have gone in no time at all. I don't want to bore you with every moment's recall. Sufficient to say, marriage is not all plain sailing. There are rocks and bumps that require navigating. I knew I had married Mr. Right way back in those days. What I didn't realise, his first name was Always. Hugh argues with the telly and gives his advice. I tell him they can't hear that it cuts no ice. I developed a strategy of identification, a guide. I placed everything for Hugh on the right-hand side. When he asked me why this was always the way, because you were always right, I say. Hugh's a world authority on all matters at large, could give advice to world governments at no charge. Who needs Mr. Google when I have him? Life's never been boring and certainly not dim. Not many folk know of his imaginary horse. Ridden around an imaginary course. And the given impressions never fail to bemuse. But the whistling and singing do not amuse. If Hugh could sing a whole song, that would be just fine. But he sings the first 4 words of a song's very first line. This is repeated until I am almost demented. This is the way that a wife is tormented. His French uncovered blindness always unnerve, although right in front of him he fails to observe. He tells me the pantry he would rearrange, and everything would be in eyesight range.